What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is day one of the 4th annual 10 Days of Pumpkin here on the channel. And the beer I'm reviewing today comes from the Brooklyn Brewery, and they are out of Brooklyn, New York, and this is their Post-Road Pumpkin Ale. So this is a pumpkin ale that is brewed with real pumpkin and a touch of spices. It comes in at 5% alcohol by volume, 24 IBUs, and at the time of review, this bottle is approximately 2.5 months old. So it's been a while since I've had this beer. The last time I had this beer was back in 2012, so we're talking 9 years ago. That was the pre-Untapped days for me when I would rate all my beers on Beer Advocate, and I gave this one a 2.75 out of 5 back then, so I wasn't a fan of it. I remember it just being very bland and dull, not a lot of spices, just didn't do it for me. So I've been meaning to review this one for a couple years now for the 10 Days of Pumpkin, but it always gets pushed to the wayside. But this year I was like, you know what? We're doing it. And I made sure to do it on day one because I didn't want to forget. So anyway, they have a little spiel here that I'll read. It says, in the 18th century, colonial Americans brewed wonderful and interesting ales using local ingredients. Barley was the principal ingredient, but pumpkins were favored by brewers for their rich, spicy flavors, which melded perfectly with malted barley. Post-Road brings you a delicious rendition of this traditional American classic. So yeah, they're going for like a traditional pumpkin beer. So maybe that's why, maybe there wasn't a ton of spices used back in the day. Who knows? But like I said, don't remember being a huge fan of this one, but my palate has changed immensely in the past 9 years, so I hope that I enjoy this one. The other thing I want to mention is they have a Best By date of February 2022. Now, they also have a Julian code, Julian date on the bottle too, which I figured out, and it's just crazy that they can do all, you know, they put the Best By on there and they put the Julian, just put the bottle on date along with the Best By so people don't have to decipher it. I don't know. But if you're curious, this one was brewed in early August, so August 3rd to be specific. Or not brewed, bottled. What am I doing? I don't know. Anyway, let's give it a pour here. Probably gonna pour this entire bottle in, honestly. Yeah, we're going to. So that is looking like a pumpkin ale to some degree. Put this over here. Okay, so this has this really golden filtered color, a little bit of chill haze, decent amount of carbonation, has about a finger of this bright white, fluffy, almost creamy looking head. That actually looks nice for a pumpkin ale, maybe a little bit lighter. You know, I mean, pumpkin ales range from really light to really dark depending on the brewery, but I would say that looks like a classic one. There's very fine sediment, kind of, you know how I said it was crystal clear? Maybe not as clear as I thought. There is chill haze, but there is fine sediment as well. Anyway, it looks nice. It looks nice for a pumpkin beer. Let's get a nose. So to me, you know what this smells like? This smells like a really old school take on like an American Pale Ale, like a 5% American Pale Ale. That's what it kind of smells like in the nose. I'm getting caramel, a little bit of like just a generic breadiness from the malt. Then I'm getting those hop characters that are like old school, little like a touch of pine resin. A little bit of earthy, more earthy than pine resin. We'll roll that back. We'll say more of like an earthiness than pine resin. I'm getting a touch of spice, maybe like a cinnamon thing going on, but there's not a lot of spice. Honestly, when it comes to pumpkin too, mostly when a brewer uses pumpkin, it's for the body. And the taste, I typically just get like a very slight earthiness. I don't really taste pumpkin. A lot of people will be like, oh, I taste the pumpkin in there. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, it's cinnamon and nutmeg and stuff. Well, you're tasting like the pumpkin pie filling. That's what you're really tasting. And I'm only getting a little bit of cinnamon, maybe a touch of like a nutmeg or a clove or something. But the spices are very, very dull in this one. It doesn't smell bad. It smells, like I said, like an old school kind of like 5% American Pale Ale or like an American Golden Ale or something like that. Just a very generic beer. It doesn't smell bad, but when I review and drink pumpkin beers, I want something with a little bit of intensity, something that's going to kind of punch me in the face with, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a pumpkin pie character, but something that reminds me of pumpkin pie or the fall season. This, not so much. It doesn't smell bad. I'll say that for like the 45th time already, but it just doesn't smell like anything amazing. So let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Yeah. I'll say this, I like it a little bit better than I did in 2012 when I gave it 2.75, but not a lot better. Body in this one, I'll give it props for that. And I think that's one of the reasons maybe I like it so well. Body's like lower side of medium, almost approaching medium body. For something that's 5%, maybe that's where the pumpkin's coming in, a little bit bigger body. There's a little bit of creaminess too for the mouthfeel, but more of like a crisp kind of sensation. Yeah, it's crisp. It's finishes relatively clean, but it has a little bit of like a creamy kind of soft thing going on. So the body and mouthfeel are really nice for something that's 5%. The taste, this is where it falls flat for me a little bit. Right up front, I get that nice bready caramel kind of malt sensation. Hits me right at the tip of the tongue. Continues on the first half of the palate. Midway through, I get a touch of spice. There's like a little bit of a cinnamon, and I want to say like a clove. I don't know. They say they're brewing this with a touch of spices. What does that mean? I have no idea. It must mean just a couple spices, but like a little bit of a cinnamon and a clove thing, middle of the palate. But I'm also getting mixed in underneath with this like earthy kind of, I was going to say dirty, but that sounds bad, but just like this nice, like kind of earthy kind of hop sensation. It finishes semi to full on dry. There's a mild, very mild bitterness. This doesn't have a lot of bitterness, which the style, you really don't get a lot of bitterness, but it does have an almost full on dry finish. So it's not too sweet. The malt dominates the vast majority of the palate, but on the back end, that dryness kind of balances out to some degree, so it's not too sweet. But at the end of the day, if you handed this to me and just said this is like an American Golden Ale or an old school American Pale Ale, I'd be like, oh, it's really not super hop forward or anything, but it's easy to drink. This is just like, picture like a craft beer. That's not a lager or an ale. That's kind of what this is, with a touch of that like cinnamon clove thing. I have no idea this would be brewed with, like if you gave me this blind, there's no, if I was doing this as a whodunit beer on my channel, a mystery beer, there is almost no way I would say this is specifically a pumpkin ale. I would be like, oh man, that's a nice, old school pale ale or something, and it's solid, right? So I don't know. It's not a bad beer at all. It's just, I've had so many beers like this in my life where it's a nice, easy drinking beer, but it's pretty dull and bland. It just doesn't do a lot for me. And you know what? I'm always honest on my channel. I really wanted to like this one, certainly more than I did back in the day. And I do like it a little bit more, but just doesn't do it for me. So, yeah, the Post Road Pumpkin Ale from Brooklyn, I can't go higher than 3 out of 5 on that. Like, that's the best I can do. Stylistically, it would be even lower. It probably won't even get a passing grade. It'd be sub 2.5 as far as like the style goes. Now, they're saying this is more of like an old school pumpkin ale where they were, brewing it with pumpkin as opposed to, they said, just straight on barley malt, right? Or barley. So, yeah, I could see that. If you're going for style for it, they're doing a pretty good job. But like for what I'm looking for in a modern day pumpkin beer, just doesn't do it for me. So 3 out of 5 for me personally. Can't say much more about it. 5% drinks like 5% beer. Price and availability. Price point. These are typically like it's like $8.99 to $9.99 for a 6-pack, pretty much wherever you live. If you find them on sale, you probably can get them for like $7, $8 a 6-pack. That's a good deal. I mean, that's the standard pay for something from Brooklyn. You're talking, less than $2 a bottle. It's fine. Availability, wherever Brooklyn gets sold, which is all over the place. If you see Brooklyn products, you probably see this one in the fall, I guess in the summer technically. Yeah, so price point's good, availability's good, beer, okay. So if you've had this one before, let me know what you think about it. The 4th annual 10 Days of Pumpkin starts off with not a bang. Not a bang at all. I wasn't hoping for a bang, but I was hoping I enjoyed this one more than I did in the past, and it just didn't come to fruition, so here we are. Anyway, like I said, if you've had this one before, let me know what you think about it. If you've had this one before in, say, a good 5 to 10 years ago, and you've had it recently, let me know. Has it changed for your palate? Because it really hasn't changed much for mine, and it's been 9 years, and I'll tell you, my palate has changed. There's a lot of beers that I disliked or really didn't care for 5 to 7 years ago that now I really enjoy them, or at least tolerate them. This is not one of them. Anyway, till the next one. Cheers.